America faces a crisis. It's not just economic or political, but a crisis of truth. We are drowning in a sea of misinformation fed by biased media and amplified by social media echo chambers. This isn't just about differing opinions. It's about basic facts being distorted and twisted to fit certain narratives. This deliberate spread of misinformation poisons the well of public discourse, making it impossible to have honest conversations about the critical issues facing our nation. This isn't some abstract problem. It has real-world consequences. It drives wedges between friends and families. It fuels hatred and violence. It undermines our institutions and erodes trust in our democracy. Most importantly, it prevents us from addressing the real challenges facing everyday Americans. The American dream is under attack, but not by the boogeyman the media wants you to believe in. It's being eroded by policies built on false premises, pushed by activists more interested in virtue signaling than finding real solutions. We need to be honest about the problems we face, and that starts with rejecting the lies we're being told. We need to demand better from our leaders, our media, and ourselves. We need to be critical thinkers, questioning narratives that don't add up. We need to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations, to challenge our own biases, and to listen to those with whom we disagree. Our future depends on it. The consequences of misinformation aren't just social, they are economic. When ideology trumps reality, we end up with policies that sound good on paper, but devastate working families. We are told we need to raise the minimum wage to $15, $20, and even $25 an hour to ensure a living wage. But what happens when small businesses, the backbone of our economy, can't afford those wages? They close their doors, jobs disappear, and communities suffer. We are told that open borders are a moral imperative, that we have a duty to welcome everyone who wants to come to America. But what about the American workers who see their wages depressed and jobs outsourced because of unchecked illegal immigration? What about the strain on our social safety net, our schools, and our healthcare system? These aren't heartless questions, they're practical ones. We live in a world of finite resources. We can't help everyone, but we can hurt everyone by clinging to policies that sound compassionate, but ultimately harm those they claim to help. We need to start making decisions based on facts, not feelings on economic reality, not ideological fantasy. Let's look at a concrete example of how misguided demands for rights can backfire. Take the push for equity in education. We are told that standardized testing is racist, that it disadvantages minority students. So schools are pressured to lower standards, eliminate gifted programs, and focus on equal outcomes rather than equal opportunity. The result? American students are falling behind their international peers. But it's worse than that. By doing away with merit-based systems, we are not helping those who are struggling. We are just setting them up for failure. We are sending the message that they are not capable of competing, that they need to be patronized rather than empowered. This isn't compassion, it's condescension disguised as social justice. It's important to remember that the fight for real equality has been long and arduous. Think of the civil rights movement or the struggle for women's suffrage. These were battles against genuine oppression, against systemic injustice. These movements were about securing fundamental rights that have been denied for far too long. Today, many of the so-called rights being demanded are not about equality of opportunity, but about equality of outcome. They're not about removing barriers, but about demanding special treatment. This isn't about righting historical wrongs. It's about rewriting history itself. It's about tearing down the very foundations of our society, individual liberty, personal responsibility, and the pursuit of excellence, and replacing them with a system of enforced conformity and mediocrity. Perhaps no issue better illustrates the disconnect between reality and rhetoric than the transgender movement. We are told that we must accept, without question, the idea that a man can become a woman or vice versa, that biological sex is fluid and subjective. We are told that to question this is to be hateful, bigoted, or transphobic. But what about the science? What about the biological reality that men and women are different and that these differences matter? What about the rights of women and girls who are being told they must compete against biological males in sports, share locker rooms and bathrooms with them, and even pretend that men can get pregnant? This isn't about hating anyone. It's about common sense, about protecting women and children, and about preserving the integrity of our institutions. It's about pushing back against an ideology that is so extreme, so divorced from reality, that it threatens to unravel the very fabric of our society. It's no coincidence that this push for radical social change is happening alongside a massive expansion of government power. The political class, the elites in Washington, and their allies in the media and academia have a vested interest in keeping Americans divided and distracted. They know that a divided nation is easier to control and that a population obsessed with identity politics is less likely to notice the government picking their pockets and eroding their freedoms. They use fear and guilt to silence dissent. They accuse anyone who disagrees with them of being racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, or any other label they can think of to shut down debate and demonize their opponents. This is not how a free society operates. This is how totalitarian regimes maintain power. We must not let them succeed. Leveling the playing field, not the scoreboard. True equality is about ensuring everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. It's not about guaranteeing equal outcomes. It's about removing barriers to opportunity like access to quality education, affordable healthcare, and good paying jobs. It's about creating a system where everyone, regardless of their background, has a fair shot at achieving the American dream. This means embracing policies that promote economic growth, create jobs, and empower individuals to take control of their own lives. We need to unleash the power of the free market, reduce burdensome regulations, and empower small businesses to thrive. We need to invest in vocational training and apprenticeship programs so that all Americans have the skills they need to compete in the 21st century economy. Bridging the divide. Finding common ground in a polarized world. Our nation is more divided than ever. The political left and right seem to be speaking different languages, living in different realities. But despite our differences, we all want the same things: a safe and prosperous future for ourselves and our children. We all want to live in a country where everyone has the opportunity to succeed, where hard work is rewarded, and where we can live our lives in peace and freedom. It's time to start focusing on what unites us rather than what divides us. It's time to stop demonizing those who disagree with us and start listening to each other again. It's time to have honest and respectful conversations about the challenges we face and work together to find solutions that benefit all Americans. The price of silence. Why we can't afford apathy anymore. The stakes have never been higher. The future of our nation, our freedoms, and our way of life hangs in the balance. We can no longer afford to be silent. We cannot sit idly by while our country is torn apart by division, misinformation, and radical ideologies. Silence is not an option. Apathy is not an option. We must speak out against the lies, the distortions, and the manipulations. We must stand up for truth, for common sense, and for the values that have made America great. A call to action: embracing truth, unity, and economic prosperity. We, the American people, have a choice to make. We can continue down the path of division and decline, or we can choose a different path. A path that leads to unity, prosperity, and a brighter future for all. It starts with each and every one of us. We must be willing to stand up for what we believe in, to challenge the status quo, and to demand better from our leaders. We must be willing to engage in respectful dialogue, to listen to opposing viewpoints, and to find common ground. Let us reject the politics of division and embrace the politics of unity. Let us reject the economics of envy and embrace the economics of opportunity. Let us reject the culture of victimhood and embrace the culture of responsibility. Together, we can build a stronger, more prosperous, and more united America. We can reclaim the promise of the American dream for ourselves and for generations to come. The time for action is now. In a world where we often grapple with the concept of equality, it's crucial to understand what being created equal truly means. Some people excel in ways that change the world, while others struggle with their own battles. This disparity doesn't strip anyone of their humanity, but it's naive to believe that everyone should be treated identically regardless of their actions and choices. Equality in creation simply means that we all enter this world through the same natural process. It doesn't dictate that our lives will be the same, nor does it guarantee equal outcomes. Our actions, decisions, and responsibilities shape our paths and ultimately our contributions to society. The phrase, "all men are created equal," is often misinterpreted. It's a biblical term that has been selectively upheld, while many other teachings have been disregarded. This selective interpretation feeds into a narcissistic mindset, making it about individual entitlement rather than collective responsibility. True equality doesn't mean living or dying the same way. It means recognizing our shared humanity while acknowledging our diverse potentials and responsibilities. To move forward, we must redefine what equality means in practical terms, balancing fairness with accountability. Let's embrace a more nuanced understanding of equality, one that respects individual differences while fostering collective growth. It's about creating opportunities for everyone to thrive, not guaranteeing identical outcomes. Together, we can build a society that values both equality and responsibility, paving the way for a future where everyone has the chance to succeed. This is the path forward, redefining equality and embracing responsibility for a better tomorrow. In today's world, political disinformation has become a powerful force influencing public opinion and shaping the political landscape. The rise of social media and the 24-hour news cycle has amplified this phenomenon, creating an environment where misinformation spreads rapidly and widely. Former President Donald Trump didn't create this toxicity, but his tenure certainly brought it to the forefront. The problem lies not just with the misinformation itself, but with the individuals who propagate it and the echo chambers that reinforce it. The cult-like following that has emerged around Trump translates his words to fit their own narratives, and extreme liberals often take the bait, escalating the cycle of misinformation and are equally responsible. I was once part of the liberal camp that prided itself on intelligence, but often fell into the trap of reacting to every provocation. The failed impeachments of Trump, despite their symbolic significance, did little to change the minds of his supporters. And when the COVID-19 pandemic struck, it became a battleground for political disinformation. Claims of a Democrat-funded sickness poisoned the well of public discourse, turning a global health crisis into a partisan issue. Trump's decision to shut down travel from China was met with accusations of racism, even though it was a standard public health response. The eviction moratorium and unemployment bonuses further highlighted the political divide, with each side interpreting actions through their own biased lenses. Even the events of January 6, 2021 were mired in disinformation. While Trump called for peaceful protest, the mainstream narrative painted him as inciting violence. This discrepancy between words and interpretation fuels the ongoing polarization. The real issue isn't just the misinformation itself, but the underlying biases and prejudices that distort its interpretation. The narrative that Trump is a racist who targets minorities is often based on selective interpretations of his statements. The reality is more complex and nuanced, and oversimplifications only serve to deepen divisions. As a society, we must recognize the dangers of political disinformation and commit to separating fact from fiction. It's not just about debunking false claims, but understanding the motivations and biases that drive them. Only then can we begin to heal the deep-seated divisions that threaten our democracy. Let's strive for a future where truth prevails over misinformation, where we engage in constructive dialogue rather than partisan bickering. The stakes are too high for us to remain apathetic. It's time to take responsibility for the information we consume and share, fostering a culture of informed and critical thinking. In the heated debates about immigration, the U.S.-Mexico border often takes center stage. But the reality is more complex than the simplified narrative of Mexican families seeking a better life. 12 years ago, nearly 90% of those crossing the border were indeed Mexican families. America, with its long history of immigration, largely understood and accepted this trend. However, the situation has drastically changed. Today, less than 45% of those crossing the border are from Mexico. The majority now come from a diverse range of countries, many of which harbor individuals with complex motives and backgrounds. In 2022 alone, out of the 1.6 million apprehended at the border, the numbers tell a different story. 230,000 were from Guatemala, 220,000 were from Cuba, 213,000 were from Honduras, 188,000 were from Venezuela, 164,000 were from Nicaragua, 97,000 were from El Salvador, 54,000 were from Haiti, 53,000 were from Brazil, 51,000 were from Peru, 25,000 were from Ukraine, 24,000 were from Ecuador, 22,000 were from Russia, 18,000 were from India, 15,000 were from Turkey, 6,000 were from Romania, 2,200 were from China, and up to 100,000 from various African countries. These numbers illustrate a shift that poses new challenges for border security and immigration policy. It's not just about the volume of people, but the diversity of origins and potential threats. The influx includes individuals from regions with different political, economic, and social issues, some of whom may hold views that are starkly opposed to American values and interests. This nuanced reality requires a more sophisticated approach than simply labeling it as a crisis or a humanitarian issue. We must balance compassion with security, understanding that the safety and well-being of 350 million Americans are at stake. Ignoring these complexities in favor of oversimplified narratives does a disservice to everyone involved. As we navigate these challenges, let's strive for informed and balanced solutions that protect both our borders and our values. Only by acknowledging and addressing the full scope of the issue can we hope to create effective and humane immigration policies. In today's hyper-polarized political landscape, misinformation about the presidency can easily distort public perception. One of the most pervasive myths is that a president can make immediate sweeping changes upon entering the White House. The reality, however, is far more complex. Take the issue of children in cages, often cited by Democrats to criticize Donald Trump. What many overlook is that Trump was continuing a policy from the previous administration, and the numbers of detained children were actually lower under his presidency. Similarly, claims of a failed presidency under Trump ignore key economic indicators. Federal interest rates were nearly half of what they are now. Gas prices were under $2 a gallon, and significant tax cuts were implemented across all sectors, resulting in record tax revenue. The narrative that Trump was a warmonger also doesn't hold up to scrutiny. He was the only modern president who didn't start any new wars, engaged diplomatically with previously unapproachable leaders, and brokered crucial Middle East peace deals. He also pressured other United Nations member countries to contribute financially, a move that had been long overdue. When it comes to election interference in 2020, the allegations against Trump are as baseless as they are sensational. Almost as the lunatic theory that Trump had someone aim a gun at him and said, "but only hit my ear." If he had truly cheated, he would have won. Kind of the point of cheating. The Democrats' focus on scandals such as the alleged use of campaign funds to silence a porn star often overlooks the fact that Trump used his own money for campaign expenses and didn't take a salary for 4 years. Comparing this to Bill Clinton's affair scandal, one might argue that what a man does in his private life should not overshadow his public achievements. Trump, documented on paper, was one of the most economically successful and peaceful presidents of our time, despite personal controversies. On the other hand, the Democratic Party's policies have had their own set of consequences. States like Colorado, Washington, and Oregon, which promote needle exchanges and decriminalize certain offenses, rank among the worst in the nation for mental health. This raises questions about the long-term impact of such policies. Ultimately, the battle between political ideologies has escalated to a point where rational discourse is often overshadowed by emotional rhetoric. It's crucial to look beyond the noise and critically assess the facts. As we navigate these turbulent times, let's strive to find a balanced perspective that prioritizes truth and effective governance over partisan loyalty.
Thank you for watching this in-depth exploration of today's complex political landscape. We hope this video has provided you with valuable insights and a balanced perspective on the issues at hand. This video was made by Charlie Taylor. Follow him on Facebook by finding his local community Facebook group, Everything Longmont Unfiltered. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work together to build a more informed and united community. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.